My name is Nathalie Frankowski. So for us, as I was explaining in presentation, the idea of a collective is very fundamental in our practice. I think because when I was just out of school, I founded my office with my partner, but it was already a collective practice. And I think when we think, about architecture and fields that has to question a lot about, how do we live together and so on, I really believe in the collective because then we can have, more perspective. We can come together to be more critical about it. We can expand a little bit what we do too because we have more hands, more minds, right, coming together. We're also part of different collectives. So I have the practice that is We Architecture Think Tank with Cruz Garcia. And I'm also part of different collective, an artist collective called Garcia Frankowski, another collective called Post Novice, and we also work with a platform that is all about the coming together and exchanging ideas and different references and sources of knowledges. It's interesting because I have to say that our practice has been shifting a lot depending on what is happening in the world. And I think we have to be, as a field, and I want to speak about architecture and how architects practice, we have to be more aware of the actual context, right? And I think we shouldn't ignore it. And so long there's been ways of thinking of practicing architecture in a bubble or just focusing on design, on buildings. And I think now we have to really be aware that architecture is of course political because we operate as a society, we operate in different political entities. So right now I would say just listening to what is happening around the world and trying to find ways to bring architecture as a tool to critically speak about it or be self-critical about how architecture plays a role in what is happening right now. So I think it's interesting that we bring this conversation just after a panel about inclusive spaces. So I feel like the power of thinking of architecture now, and I think the discussion in the architecture field shifted a lot. Before we would maybe focus more about the aesthetic or the technical part of a building, but now we have to be more critical about thinking of, what context is this building built, what does it provide as to be, for example, a space for inclusion or a space for everyone? How does it come in the city when we speak about, creating spaces, public spaces, and so on? But also as a building, is it very, inclusive? Is it what is happening in terms of program? How are the spaces? Are we thinking of, every type of person who can really enjoy this architecture or be part of this architecture? I think I don't know if as a practice we are thinking so much ahead because, as I was saying, we try to respond a lot in what is happening right now in the world, and there's a lot happening right now in the world, like what is happening in Gaza and so on. So I feel like projecting already a little bit in a few months would be good. So just thinking, I feel again like how can we echo what is happening and learn about it and try to think what can we do with our own practice. What is our role in our practice? What is our responsibility? Can we do something? Especially when we see a lot of injustice happening right now. What is the role of architecture and so on? So I think just thinking of these questions in a few months would be something like a perspective for us that would be interesting. So we have our website is wearchitecture.com, and we also exist in the social media as Garcia Frankowski, which is the two names, Garcia my partner and Frankowski.
Edificios de México.